and therefore it ought to be phased. Or this policy which is coming up is conflicting. So we look at the whole matrix of the long-term plan and the perspective plan. It is there already, what we want to do and the aspirations of the people. And then when a policy comes, a proposal or something that you've sold in your manifesto, we can indicate that this might be conflicting. And there are many which comes up, particularly areas that relates to the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to be cautious the way that is managed. If you're going to tap into resources, if you're going to exploit some of these resources, we need to look at that. We need to also look at policy sequencing. This can be done. And then after, another can be done. We need to also look at, and these are some of the things which makes our function very, very important, leveraging. Because we look at the global environment. What are the opportunities that are presented by the global environment that a government can easily tap into, okay, and ride on to make success with respect to their own, manifesto or mandate, and then fulfilling the aspirations of the people.
Right.
So we indicate to you, for example, we say this is the sustainable development goals. This is an area where there's a lot of emphasis, a lot of resources, and there could be ready gains which the country can make out of that. And therefore, it could be one of the things that you could prioritize. Another thing which is also important is phasing of project implementation.
Right.
You might have promised, I'm going to do this in 4 years. But we can say that, look, 4 years might not be possible. We need to face it. So for the first part, you can emphasize this. You can prioritize this area. Then the second leg, you can look at that. If it's possible for a third leg, you look at all that. So we help in facing this such that even if you don't complete the full stretch, for the first 4 years that you're going to be in government, there will be tangible results out of that if you do effective facing. So these are some of the things that dialogues are engaged upon. But in our own constitution, you'll be surprised to know, 1992, the framers of our constitution anticipated that. So what they say, the constitution says is that Article 36(5), as soon as you are elected as a president, in spite of your manifesto, in spite of what you have sold to the people, you come out with a coordinated program of economic and social policies. And this is where the technical political dialogue comes in.
Yeah, understood. And so for you, you do your best, you make your best efforts to advise a president, whichever one it is, and his government. Yes. They're not duty bound to listen to you. And so how do you get over that? Because I mean, sometimes with hindsight we can say, what were you thinking when you did this? But if the National Development Planning Commission has been influential because it is thinking long term, then maybe this government of today or yesterday or whatever would not have made this particular decision because it didn't fit in with any long-term planning agenda or goals. And I'm trying to figure out, how can you make sure that a president actually thinks beyond his political safety and thinks about the country?
You know, it is a whole. The influence of the Planning Commission is very, very important. And if I say that we don't influence that, I may be telling the people of Ghana something which is far-fetched. But the point is that the influence is as much as the advisory process is carried. And that is what our constitution has framed. So we advise, we have other means of influencing, we have other means of engaging the civil society, engaging the people of the country, engaging development partners, and all these facets who also have influence also bring into bear on the government decision. And that is very, very important. The other thing is that we also come out on objective basis. That through our objectivity, this is the situation. And if you're a government and you don't listen to that, then it becomes a challenge because it affects this whole process. For an objective information given, which affects our development, I know many governments will not throw it away. Definitely, many governments.
How does the government? You see, I'm going to ask this because you brought this objectivity in there. So let me come to the objectivity. Important. The commission is established by the government of the day. The next government comes and it will be a new turnaround, and you have to do. They are appointing new commissioners. Again, how do we even guarantee that the National Development Planning Commission commissioners are not just the creme de la creme, but the creme de la creme from across society and not partisan or parochial in its establishment.
Let me say that it's one institution which I've respected so much when it comes to serving the government. You'll be surprised that there are commissioners who have served in the past government and the current government.
Right.
And that is very, very important because of their technical ability and their objectivity. And we have a number of that because people are selected based upon their technical ability. And I'm sure that as a prompt to government, as an advisor to government also wants to have people who are balanced in many of these situations. I must say that, yes, there could be people who are obviously aligned to a particular government or party, but there are many of them who are also keen on objective and they want to develop their professional integrity, and they do that a lot. If you hear in closet some of the things that we debate, it tells you, it gives you confidence and hope that this is the situation. And I must say that the respect we also enjoy from the government on the feedback and some of these things also is encouraging.
Right.
And as I mentioned, the chairperson is a key factor in influencing the government. The chairperson can have informal dialogues and anytime have access, and it's a requirement. It's there in the Constitution. You should be able somebody who can assess the president and the government and all these things.
Right.
And that's
okay. All right. You talk about multi-year rolling plans. And for me, this is very basic. It speaks to, it doesn't matter which government is in office, there is a plan that when you come, you're following the plan because this person has started, and we're going towards this natural conclusion that has been informed by the National Development Planning Commission's 20-year thought process on this, or 25, or whatever. Now, then we have the evidence of somebody starts a housing project, and the next person comes and they decide, oh, I'm ignoring that housing project because I'm going to do this one because it doesn't carry my name on it. And you see, you know what I mean. There's the pettiness of our politics. How do you, excuse me, how do you come in to get them back on track and say, Mike, please, do you have that sort of role with the presidencies to go and say, look, this is part of our bid to get housing for the people of this country, not your political party machinations. How do you?
Let me say that this has been a bane in our whole development trajectory as a country, a challenge. But you see, very often we place the problem at the political on the political platform and then blame the politicians because of change of government. But we've done real studies on why projects are not continued by government. And we realize that it is not just the politics of it, but very often we don't think through the full regime of our projects, the full requirements of our projects. Okay? Because a project has to go through an analysis for the building of the project or the construction or whatever it is, from operation and to maintenance. We have to think through the full regime. And then also look at what the cash flow in terms of resources to implement this project. Think through the whole thing. Where is the money going to come from? Is it from Ghana government budget, from development partners? Is it a loan? All this regime must be done for each project. And I emphasize on each project. When that is done, if a new government comes in, the new government knows the regime of the project, where the resources are going to come, and all that. So it's a matter of just flowing through and continuing. But very often, what we do is that we only start a project. It's a very good project, but we only be able to mobilize part of the resources, and then we start. When we go through the new government is elected, there's always a break, because now you have to find a new means. There is no layout in terms of the financial flow. There is nothing. It means that you have to restart. You are not going to continue. So we use the word continuation, but very often it's restarting because the basis for the resource flow is not there. And then that will delay. And it continues to delay because there might be a reason why this is not going to continue. The government says, we're going to investigate. We're going to find out how did they start? Where are the resources? How did they use it? And all this thing, it comes to a time that you realize that the project has become very expensive. because the contractor's overhead will be running at the time you are going through this whole process. And then you get to a time, the person who might be prepared to support says that it's no more viable. A project which was viable now is no more viable because of these things. Then it begins to sound political, but in fact, it's a technical omission.
Well, okay.
Which we have identified.
Doc, that's you being charitable, and I'll let you do that because you're a nice guy. But we don't have to be charitable as citizens of this republic if people don't want to think about how to sustain a project to its end. You know, in these cases, do you get the consultation? Are you allowed to come back to government and say, hey, we've looked at your plans for this thing. It's not sustainable. Did you get that, or are you allowed that chance?
Let me add and say that the National Development Planning Commission, ASAASE, the past, 4 years or so, wasn't doing that. I must confess, and I must say that. Now, it is not just whether you want to do it or not. In order to solve this problem which was identified, there is now an act which is in the public financial management system, is going to the level of having an ally which gives a specific expression to the problem I've described, the Public Investment Management System Act.
It's a legislative instrument that is spelling out
2411, 2411.
Right.
There. So it gives you the instruction that before you can start any capital project, right from the district to the national level, no matter the size and everything, it must go through an analysis.
Right.
Analysis which will show the duration of the project, where resources are going to come from and all that.
Doc, I get you.
Then
But
it's not only that, but before it gets there, when you've done all this, it comes to what we call the Public Investment Management Committee,
right,
chaired by the Minister of Finance. The National Development Planning Commission Director General is there. The head of budget, head of debt management division, and also technical people outside the public stream from Ghana Institution of Engineers, Ghana Institute of Surveyors. They all sit down and think through. It is only when you receive an approval, and this is managed by the Public Investment Division of the Ministry of Finance, approval from this committee, that you end up on the public budget.
Okay.
For it to go.
You see what the challenge is with the fact that we have to have an LI because before people do the right thing. Exactly. They didn't get their qualifications after the LI. They had their qualifications before. Yeah. So they didn't know that they could do this and do it the right way. You need a legislative instrument to do an analysis.
You see, we are a democratic country. We are a government which is guided. There are two major tools to manage the system in any democratic country.
Right.
Laws, okay, and finance. Two things. You can't go outside it and do any other thing. So you use the fiscal means or you use the legal means. And now we've used the legal means to achieve a fiscal end. That is what has been done. So you are compelled.
Right.
And government, from one government to another, everybody goes by the law. And if you go against it, there's a penalty. Or even if you go against it, your project will not be implemented.
Right.
So it will never come up.
Right. But
this is what has been instituted, and I love that so much.
Right.
That is so. The National Development Planning Commission now doesn't rely on only advices, but there's a legal instrument that should back the fact that the project must go through a cost-benefit analysis, and we have a regime for that. At the district, you can do feasibility analysis. When you move up to a certain project size, then you have to do detailed cost benefit, financial flow, all this. But the financial flow will rise through all of them. So that if there's a problem, we can then say, oh, this is the source, and not just a political reason.
Right. Okay, if you're just joining us, we're getting an insight into the work of the National Development Planning Commission. And as the Director General is here with us, he's telling us that they're becoming a lot more communicative. And putting the word out about what they do and explaining some of the challenges as well as the actual role is. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, beyond the rolling plans, is that we're going to be talking about something that has become something of an interesting point these days is Galamsey. I'm not talking about Galamsey per se, but I'm talking about one of the roles of the NDPC, which is the protection of our natural and physical environment. Where did we go wrong? And how upset is the NDPC about what's been going on in this area? And then development of districts, things like the proposal 4 years ago that we should even take the shackles off of the presidency and let it become, those positions become elected, things like that. Where is the NDPC stand on these kinds of things, which are all progressive, but are they development functions, and is that something that they're concerned about? That's after the break.
The ASAASE Breakfast Show.
Because the greatest things are born from the smallest of thoughts. Just as your seeds in a rich soil grow to become trees that bear fruits, the Agricultural Development Bank, ADB, helps you sow, invest, nurture, and grow your personal and business plans by serving you with years of banking ingenuity and experience in agribusiness, corporate and commercial banking, consumer finance, e-banking, and many more through our network branches across the country. Whatever the culture, whatever the dream, we grow with you. Call us today on 0302-210-210 or visit www.agricbank.com. ADB, truly agric and more.
LPG is a safe source of energy only when used right. Do not neglect any safety tips when using LPG. Smell and check for gas leakage before using your stove. When you smell gas, ventilate the room. Do not turn electrical switches on or off. This could spark a fire. Extinguish all naked flame and immediately call a qualified technician to service your stove. Use soapy water to check for gas leakage. When bubbles appear, you have a leak. Check your hose regularly for cracks and change hose at least once in 2 years. Always light your match before you turn on your gas cooker. Always keep your regulator off when not in use. A message from the National Petroleum Authority.
The world today is a knowledge-driven global village. Without the right skills and qualifications, you cannot compete in the global job market.
At the Accra Institute of Technology, AIT, the University of the Future, we insist on quality education and make sure you get globally competitive qualifications in engineering, science, business, computer science, IT, and a host of others.
Parents, send your wards where they will obtain the right qualifications to compete in the global job market.
At AIT, you can get industry-relevant skills and top-class qualifications that gives you a head start on the global scene.
AIT, in partnership with world-class universities, is changing the face of university education in Ghana and beyond. We are modern, technology-focused, and serious.
Call us on 0302 786053 or 0577 668817. Email to ait@ait.edu.gh or visit our website www.ait.edu.gh. AIT, this is where you want to go to university.
Namese, a free brami who the bia we are active, very strong and energetic.
We are 100%. Na nina ne sadie me hwe me ni padua sofa na de boa me mama hoden mama timi ko bada ene tabia zanika heba mister
Tabia zanika heba misha. What do you want dance ya chere me?
Ho dance de enye wonko me de dawure na ato so. Na madia chere nipa mpempem. Tabia zanika heba mister ma to ne de nyame sa wonom a emenkwamu a ewo nipadua no mu a ye fra mu asojafo eye wide blasters na hoden enti nipadua ni nya hoden soronko kutia yare ahodo bebre enti wonta nyare enti na dam ye strong no eye general well-being of the body enti ye adwuma ewo nipadua na kwa no mu ba bia
me am to me hu anya se busua bia here
eye busua nchemfa so obi de ne ho to tabia zanika heba mesa so a eden se obeyare na nya na ewo ba bia tonto aduro bia hye ne nso se obi a onya mfinhye dumienu apemfo ene abatan a oma omanofo entimi no bi FDA ahwehwe sa adwade nkratomu mu agye to me se ye.
Transforming our country through trade is how most successful nations build their economy. At Exim Bank, we believe strongly that the bedrock of every economy lies in its ability to export its produce. This is why, as a bank, our focus is to facilitate Ghana's international trade, to take made in Ghana goods to the global market. We support our clients with pre-shipment credit, post-shipment credit, contingent liabilities, and export development finance. These products and services will help transform the Ghanaian economy through a more convenient financial partnership that will enable us grow and prosper as a nation. Exim Bank, facilitating Ghana's international trade.
ASAASE Radio 99.5.
So we're having this discussion with Kodjo, Dr. Kodjo Mensah Abrampa. He's Director General of the National Development Planning Commission. In fact, we're going to have a conversation about family ties afterwards, because that's where we're going right now. But a reminder that at 9 o'clock, Nane has got an interview with Maulvi Mohammed bin Salih. Who was that? You? Who is that? Up close. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I apologize. So that's with Maulvi Mohammed bin Salih, Amir of Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission in Ghana. And then, just a little, find out a little bit about the Ahmadiyya movement. Like I said, I actually knew Maulvi Wahab Adam. I didn't know him. He was your dad's friend and my father's friend. Oh. And he signed the Quran for Peter Mensah at some point. Wow. Tabia Herbal has the following herbal medicines to improve your health. Tabia Health herbal mixture for the treatment of severe malaria fever, general body pains, loss of appetite, and all forms of fever. Tabia Zanacare herbal mixture for general well-being. It boosts the immune system and aids in fighting all viruses and bacteria. And we've also got Tabia herbal capsules, which cleanse and detoxifies the body. Those of you who are eating extra meat today, you might want to get some so that you can detoxify afterwards, because there'll be a lot of fatties and things like that. All of these are available in all leading pharmaceuticals and herbal shops across the country. So, contact Tabia Herbal on 0243 686 861. That's 0243 686 861. Tabia Herbal and Zanacare Mixture, Usunumbi. Remember that it's not good for pregnant women, lactating mothers, and children under the age of 12.
And GCB Bank has another message for you that's also for your good. GCB wants you to know that we know you better than they do. We cushioned you in the heat of the COVID pandemic when you needed us most. Now it's time for us to help you take care of your post-COVID needs and realize your dreams. So until December 2021, I should say, your biggest and largest bank, GCB, is cushioning its salaried customers with a special personal loan package. You can enjoy access to up to 200,000 Ghana cedis, a 2-month moratorium on the loan repayment, reduced interest rates, a loan tenor of up to 5 years, and a waiver of early settlement fees within the promo period for loan top-up customers. We make life comfortable for our customers, so apply for a GCB personal loan today to take care of that urgent need. Remember, terms and conditions apply. GCB Bank, your bank for life.
Okay, so we'll come back and talk about other stuff later on, but we've still got so much to get out of Doc now that we've got him here, because next time we see him, he'll be in study somewhere and we won't get him. So we've got him. Yes. Dr. Abrampa is here. So Director General, he's got a lot of questions to answer, and we're not going to be able to touch on everything because this is the National Development Agenda. It just doesn't happen in 45 minutes. No. But Nana is going to be asking a few questions, and I've got some questions I still wanted to hopefully you factor them in, which is...
Maybe you can jump in, because I'm sure we'll be going down this route. I just thought on a slightly divergent point, Dr. Mensah Abrampa, you were talking about the role of traditional rulers in leadership and in setting development plans. And I noticed is it the Futusanfo Is that how you pronounce it? For Hene of the Dintra traditional area. And that means you're Minister of Finance in Dintra.
Yes.
Okay, so you're doing on a mini level in the traditional area. How do you set out a plan there in Dintra?
What I will say is that we have this system which has been there way back since 1580, and we're protecting and working along with it. What we have done now is modernize it, bring it to the realm of modern democracy and the role that we can play. The key thing that we do is that we have what we call a standing committee, which discusses a lot of other things, but primary is the pursuit of development in the Dintra Kingdom. It's one of the few areas where like Ashanti, we're still holding every Dintra belongs to one king. Okay, so every Dintra reveals, or therefore Bompo is who is the king. Many ethnic groups have been divided all along. So we are fortunate, we still have that intact. And therefore it means that all the resources in our land belongs to us. Everybody who is a Dintra is part of it. So we've tried so many times. Traditionally, that's how we do it. We meet, discuss. Now it falls on the Fotusamfo Hene, who is in charge of development and also finance, and to work with the other, what we call the JASE team. JASE is basically those who form the cabinet. In our traditional system, we have two types of chiefs, the war chiefs and the JASE. The JASE are mainly the administration. So that works closely with the king. Set out some of our priorities, set out what we're going to use in terms of our resources. But now it comes down to what we call the royalties, which is a common fund which comes to us. What do we want to do with that? For the Kingdom of Dintra, for instance, the Standing Committee for the last 4 years have used every resource that we obtain to renovate our palace, built in 1940, which was one of the biggest palaces in the country then. But we haven't done any renovation of that. So we've set out to renovate this palace. Now, if you go there today, I am sure it's one of the nicest pieces of architecture you can value in this kingdom at Dintra, at Dunkwa. And then we're also putting up a new palace at Jokwa, which is a traditional seat. Wow. But beyond that, we also have an education fund, which we have co-established with some of the mining companies, some of the economic businesses in Dintra Kingdom. And we have a fund which has already been established at Dintra Development Fund. One of the things which we are looking at, and Nanano have emphasized so much, is the skill development of our youth. We used to have a case where they say one of the best nursing training colleges in the country is in Dunkwa. But we had a situation where our people were not even entering. So consciously, how do you mentor, how do you guide people from the JSS and the others, from SSS and the others, to be able to enter there? Today, I'm so proud to say that the schools in Dintra, you take the secondary school at Dunkwa, Buamponsim, you'll be surprised, this is an area which is far off from Accra and nobody might be thinking about it. But the National Science Quiz, they went all the way to semi-finals, which in effect they were fourth in the whole country. Wow. And this thing is not by accident, but the support that the kingdom has been providing for the secondary school, for the nurses training, for the other institutions that we find ourselves. The secondary school in Diaso, which many people might not even think about. It's now one of the areas where we're getting people from there to universities.
Sorry, did you say Diaso?
Diaso.
Okay.
We are also working on chiefs adopting their own children in their various communities. So you mentor them. Thanks to the free SHS, we're doing very well, because I remember in my village, before the free SHS, there were only about average of 4 people entering secondary school. Today we have 24. So that breaks out a big change. So even if you have a little resources, you can spread it among the people, give them motivation. All that they may need is a trunk here, a mattress there, instead of going to pay this huge fee. So we are able to spread. And this is something we are encouraging people to do that. One of the chiefs who is specifically in charge of education, that's the functions that we have done as part of our planning. Ankobi Ahene is in charge of education. And he has been pushing it, going to the universities, making sure that people get admissions. If they need resources, we're able to mobilize to support them. And all this. He goes around the UST, UCC, Legon, trying to push for some of our children to do that. And this is effective planning, building the future, using our traditional systems to do that.
Can I ask, what was the key event in 1980 that prompted you to set out these plans and decide to set off on this new planning basis?
At the traditional level, or
no, you said since 1980.
Okay.
Is that
Okay.
this has been your practice?
Okay.
Was it something that people, the Dintra Hine, had been
traditional
thinking about for some time, or?
let me say that we had a chief who was very, very well educated, and therefore he has been pushing that. He went to the level of becoming the president of National House of Chiefs, actually, before his demise. And therefore, this has been something that he had always cultivated, that how do I also get the people to go through that. But let me say that at that time, we had a lot of educated people becoming chiefs. That became a big prompt, which I can say. So we now have among the standing committee a number of them who are medical officers, who are educated teachers, retired teachers, and others who are now chiefs and are contributing immensely to modernizing the kind of planning that we used to do in the past. At the past, it was planning for a good war. But now you plan for the development of your people and the livelihoods of your people. So there's a change. And the transition has really worked for us. And I'm very sure that, and we also have our youth organized. Let me say that they are also demanding. We have the Denchira Development Association, we have the Denchira Youth Association, and day in, day out, you keep on receiving, WhatsApps from them, organizing programs here and there. And therefore, even if you don't want to go, you'll be pushed to respond. And I like that.
So, in a way, the pressure's coming from both below and the leaders, thinking that change needs to come. It's interesting that you should mention the thing of investing in the palace and the rebuilding of the palace. Recently, for ASAASE Radio, we spoke to the Yana in Yindi, and he had exactly the same set of demands. He set up his education trust fund along the models of the Otumfos, the Asantehines Trust Fund. But the main thing that he wants, in addition to solving the local water problem, is to build a new Bewa Palace, and he was very insistent on it. So glad that you've got you've stolen a march there, as it were, and we must visit both Jukwa, where I believe one of my aunts was born, and the other palace as well, and visit and Dunkwa itself, and see how that's getting on. But I wanted to ask you, Doc, in relation to what Kodjo was quizzing you about earlier, these incessant demands that there have been for, if you like, greater continuity. People always look to China, for example, as the model of, if you like, ruthless, focused planning and setting out of very rigorous development milestones and working absolutely flat out to achieve those and even surpassing them. And people such as Nimoy Thompson, a previous Director General of the National Development Planning Commission, have mentioned this endlessly. I mean, he made a big call, I believe it was in around 2010, 2011, thereabouts, or perhaps a bit later, the need for what he saw as maybe to have a 40-year development agenda into which documents such as the most recent one you've been working on, the medium-term development plan to take us to, is it 2024, can fit. What chances do you think there are of us being able to devise that, or is there something that is already in place into which you can see your medium-term development plan fitting?
Exactly. Let me say that, yes. You see, the planning has a lot of dimensions, and the democratic system and your system determine the kind of planning, the art of planning that you need to pursue. We have, by our democratic system, adopted a planning which is indicative, and planning which is dialogue. Okay, so it only becomes a proposal, a collection of aspirations which we put together, and that's exactly what the 40-year development plan did. So it is not a command plan as we used to, it has in China and other places, but it's indicative in the sense that in our pursuit, it includes the private sector, it includes individuals, it includes the civil society, and our democratic system pays for dialogue. So it was, if you look at the preparation of the 40-year plan, or what we call the Ghana at the time will be 100 years, what we aspire for, This was through a national collection of ideas and all that, which by 2017 had largely been completed. But when the new government was elected, new things came up. As soon as it was submitted, new things came up, especially the Charter on Ghana Beyond Aid, and also some of the ideas around some of the new flagship projects. So we have to find a way of incorporating this into this new model, which is completed and which is serving as a guide. So if you look at the pursuit, even in the medium term, it has been mainly with teasing out the strategic alternatives and how this could be attained. Because the 40-year plan has so many assumptions, but it has defined results at the end of strong economy, inclusive economy, access and equitable access to social facilities, education, health, and whatnot, building our infrastructure, said that it could be integrated, railways, roads, water, sanitation, all those things are aspirations for which we now have to bring it back. This is what we expect by 2057. How do we bring it back to today's terms? So that is where a rolling plan becomes necessary. So you tease all the way from 2057 all the way back to today. What do we do today? And it's in 4 phases. The first phase is what we call the building the foundation for the plan, making sure that the plan has a clear identity of the people. The people are part of the process. And then also the government in place is building the structures such that the following 4 years, and if you look at this in the 4 phases, the following phase will then look at not only building the foundation, but the takeoff. This time we are taking off. This time the foundation has been built, and therefore we are taking off.
So if you like, the framework or the vision was set out in the Coordinated Programme of Economic and Social Development Policies.
Exactly.
So that was October 2017, very soon after the takeover of the Akufo-Addo government.
And the good thing is, let me make a point there, which is very, very important. The Coordinated Programme is very important, but for many of the governments, they only presented it 2 years into their term. Many of the governments in the past, and therefore it affected the whole regime of planning during their term. Fortunately for President Akufo-Addo, this was done in the very first year. By the first 6 months, it was clear of where the direction is, and presented to Parliament in October, so immediately it became a national document. And immediately after that, we were able to tease out the first medium-term plan, which is unique. It has never happened in the Fourth Republic. So when that was done, it became a good day for planning. That the first 4 years of the plan had been done, which is taking inspiration and aspiration from the long-term plan. Then it became the basis of setting up all this. So if you look at the first 4 years, it was defined to set up the basis: education, industry, agriculture, ICT, all these social services, social protection. And you could see that the first 4 years, this has been the basis. And it ran very well. Even with the COVID, it is still run very well.
Well, I wanted to get onto the question of COVID maybe in a bit, because, it's all about, brass tacks for, Akosua blogs in the street. So, one of the key goals set out in the coordinated program, CSP, PSD, I can never get the acronym out properly, but the coordinated plan. So the new direction for the national development during the program is to create conditions for the Ghanaian private sector to propel growth and create ample employment opportunities, especially for the youth. So the thrust of the program is to stabilize the economy and place it on the path of strong, diversified and resilient growth. So that's the long-term strategic plan. And then you spoke about specific indicators that you had. So the average annual economic growth rate you wanted to achieve of at least 7.2%, increasing per capita GDP from around $1,515 in 2016 to at least $2,500 by 2020. Now, according to the World Bank, you slightly missed out on that 2020 target. Would you ascribe that primarily to COVID, or what other plans have you come up with in your newly devised medium-term strategy, if you like, to get us to work towards, I think it's $3,500 by 2024 per capita?
Exactly. So let me say that this is interesting. If you look at the first 3 years and you average the growth, you come to 7.1, which is very close to our 7.2%. When you bring in the COVID era, then it dips down to 5.6. So you see how disastrous the COVID was. And apart from that, we were just online, and we're just going to hit our target. And surprisingly, we're celebrating at the end of 2019 when we did all the calculations. Oh, we're there. And then COVID came in and it destroyed everything. If you look at the per capita income, it's the same. We were just around that, 2,500. We're going to achieve it until the COVID came. But even that, it brought it only down to 2,300 or so. Yes. And therefore, we missed it just by that.
2,328 according to the World Bank.
Yes. Yeah. And so you realize that we missed these things just because of the COVID situation. And that is why immediately we had the CARES program to look at this, immediately, which is also the center of our medium-term development plan for the next 4 years. The next 4 years looking at stabilization, it's looking at revitalization, and it's looking at building resilience. And this one, if you look at the stabilization, there are identified areas which were most hit. And these were triggers of development, but they were also most hit during the period. The macro and medium scale enterprises. This was very good trigger that we're emphasizing and hoping that this will surge up the takeoff. But these were hit. So immediately we need to revamp that. We need to stabilize this area. One area which was also most hit, which was seen as very, very progressive and good trajectory for us, is tourism. To bring in as an additional economic, factor. But unfortunately, this has also been hit very, very hard by the COVID. So in moving forward, we're looking at how we can revamp this area. So the micro enterprises and small-scale enterprises, I'm sure you saw the launching of the GEA.
Ghana Enterprise Agency.
Exactly.
Or is it authority?
Exactly. And there's a huge amount of money, I think 140 million or so, immediately given to the institution to make sure that these informal sector, the small enterprises and others are revamped and they begin to work economically. The tourist sector also enjoys some of the tax rebates and also a huge investment which is made available for them. The transportation sector, this was going very, very well. Unfortunately, it's also been hard hit. And because it is only mainly a private sector institution, what we're doing is that apart from the rebate, we're also looking in the future of how we can restructure this in such a way that they can have access to resources. Because if you organize it into a company and an institution, you have easy access to some of these funding sources. Again, what we are also taking advantage of in the COVID period was the ICT and technology employment. You'll be surprised that in my outfit at Ndpc, I got the highest output during the COVID time because staff were working from home. I was coordinating. They were bringing their results. Write the effect of the COVID on the education sector. Collect all the information. Write COVID effect on health. And for the 13 sectors, these young men and women collected data, brought the information, and were able to put that together for the commission.
They had time to think and to analyze.
Exactly. So then, after the COVID had gone down a bit, people were just like, oh, so when do we come back? Oh, then the staff themselves came and said, sir, if you can allow us to do flexible work time. And I tell you, everybody will tell you at Ndpc, we're getting the best results now. For many of times, we were late in our submission of reports and others. For this time, it's prompt. The annual progress report, the medium-term development plan, monitoring and evaluation. And we've done for the first time a medium-term assessment of the plan. And we publish it. We were just waiting for the commission to be instituted and they get approval and they will make it public. And you'll be surprised. These are the same people. Many of them have been there for years. And now the result is coming from there. So the ICT dimension is something that we need to look at. The youth are now going into that direction, using that to develop and come out with their own technology. We need to give it the support. So at the center of this medium-term development plan is taking advantage of the whole digitalization process, the use of ICT to facilitate not only industrial sector, but also even developing skills. One of the things which we brought in addition to developing the skills for the youth is what we call precision quality. I got that at that, and I think it became a problem for all of us. It is a problem, but we've not been looking at it. People are trained as carpenters. People are trained as masons. You go there to fix a door a door which has been created by the mason, and the carpenter's mold will not fit. So you need to add a cut or make some adjustments here and there. So we realize that, yes, much as they have the skills, in terms of the delivery, in terms of the precision, we lack in that. So one of the things which is at the center of this is developing of standards.
Yeah,
and we have on top of it the Director General for Standards Board.
Yes, we had Professor Alex Dodo at the studio recently. Yes,
we happen to be mates at the university. So
yes.
We entered the university the same day.
Wow.
In the same hall.
Some brilliant coincidence.
Exactly. Very, very good person to work with. And so we're bringing in also the COVID Director General, who is also a very nice person. And then the Minister for Employment and Labor Relations, giving us all the edge, and Minister for Education to go on with it. The fantastic thing about it is the involvement of the private sector. People who are concerned, people who are already delivering. And these are some of the things that they've come up with, that partner with that to move it. And we place it at the center of it. How do we give the youth the right skills and be able to deliver the quality that our private sector expects and the international markets also expect? Because this is a key thing which is missing. And once we refine that, I'm sure we'll be able to capture the local market and the international market. People are still important. A lot of steel work, a lot of carpentry work, a lot of other things, plastic work, which could be done locally, which people have the skill. And all that we need to do is to ensure the quality, the precision, and also be able to meet the customer demand. You have a situation where people sew, and I got that experience from the presentation. And then you have 2 centimeters off the mark. I mean, it will not stand on the global market. But we do it here. And when you go, they tell out, oh, just adjust here, oh, pull it here, and do it. No, we don't do that. If it's large size, it has a precision. Extra large, it has a precision. But not adjust here and there. It doesn't work on the international market. So these are things we're looking at. And these are the things that will propel us for the takeoff. Because the takeoff is not just within. Another principal thing which is key through the medium-term development plan is the African Continental Free Trade Area. We're now just not looking at only the ministries. We are developing tools and to support the district assemblies to understand the opportunities that are available and take advantage of that. Okay? And the district assemblies are only going to facilitate the private sector institutions within their area to take advantage of it and leverage.
If I can interrupt you a moment there, Prof, because we usefully did want to discuss, Kodjo, I'm sure does particularly want to discuss with you also the question of the development of the districts. And this is where, if you like, I see the continuing tension in the National Development Plan between the impetus towards private sector growth and the persistent fallback on government. So in terms of, if you like, prompting the districts to put in place, if you like, a sort of framework that will encourage particularly private sector growth in their own areas. How do you do that? For example, I was talking to a very interesting MC in part of the Shanti region. I won't bother to mention the specifics, but he was talking about I will mention the specifics, as the MC for Asokwa. And he was talking about how it had been the industrial heartland, if you like, of the Kumasi metropolis. And lately that had all fallen off for some reason. He was fortunate in the sense that 2 one district, one factory operations had opened up in the area, one manufacturing jute products and the other manufacturing nuts and bolts. But is hungry, desperately looking for more of the same and looking to encourage the private sector as far as possible. But for the moment, if you talk to most MMDCs, what they tell you is bring your one district, one factory projects here. It has to be a state-led intervention. So what is it that you can do from a national development point of view to enable the districts to get this private sector take off?
Great. What I've done since January is to go around the country, and it's not I personally, but also my team. But I personally have visited every region. I'm left with only OT. I've visited 32 districts, and I'm sure all of them will tell you that my communication. It's exactly what you have said. It is not waiting for the national level. What I see is that many of the districts have comparative advantages, which they need to hammer on for economic development and for creating jobs. But many of them are competing and not focusing because they want to do everything. You can't do everything in 4 years. In 4 years, as we have done, establishing the basis, establishing the foundation, if you want to also attract industries, you must establish the basis. I look at the Kumasi case. In Kumasi, there are clear comparative advantages, and I'm sure that is why we have these 6 municipal areas there. Asokwa is an industrial area. Asokore Mampo for Rukrum is the transport hub. KJTI or the Central KMA is the commercial area. If you look at the northern part of it, it is more or less the waste management hub, which can convert all this waste at Asonoma Ahirema Kokobin into energy and bring it back into the development process. If you look at the Subi and the others, it is the civic area. Can we specialize? Can we take advantage of this obvious comparative situation and be able to promote that? But if you have a situation where the person in Asokore Mampo is competing with the person in Asokwa in establishing an industrial hub or industrial park, then we are not taking advantage of the economies of scale.
And indeed, the MC of Asokwa is talking about the problem he has of people dumping their waste and fly tipping in his area. Right.
That is it, because that is not a place which traditionally has been arranged for collecting waste, managing it, and converting it to a certain level. There's another area which specializes in that. And I'm sure those of us who know the U.S., New York is a big area. It has a lot of things. But the real commercial hub, and if you want to buy anything, you go to New Jersey, which has all the malls and the stores. But there's an arrangement of revenue sharing between the two.
Right.
Okay, so can we do that in our district so that we can enhance our comparative advantage, take advantage of the economies of scale? An industrial hub means that the district can then provide the facilities to support the private sector. Do they need water? Do they need electricity? Do they need growth? Do they need storage facility? So these are some of the things we need to look at. And a lot of the regions and the districts are picking it. I can talk about a conversation I had with the Bono East Regional Minister. Fantastic person with a fantastic vision. That look, the people at Kintampo, that is the northern part of his region, have a huge advantage for production of, animal livestock. And one of the things we need in Ghana to convert our cocoa to chocolate is milk. Can we have a dairy setting there? Can we have all these things there? And the man has a thinking about that. Some of them specializing in cereal in some of the districts. Some of them specializing in vegetables. Some of them specializing in cashew processing. And he has all this. Can you imagine this is a regional minister who has a vision of converting Techima market to a 24-hour market?
Wow.
And it solves our security problem. Because people can travel during the daytime, reach the market in the night. With security and lights, they can do all their shopping and return during the daylight. All this robbery along the roads is reduced. So these are some of the things we want.
It's joined up thinking and joined up government.
Exactly. And he's not only talking, he set up committees to facilitate that. And my good friend, the Dean of School of Administration, School of Business Studies, when I was there, School of Administration, so I always forget about it now, business management, is the chairperson of the commercial and the business activities. There's another person in charge of education. This is the kind of thing. And I did not tell him. We engaged in a conversation and he brought all these things up. And this is what we want, for us to have a comparative advantage and push it. We've made it the center of this medium-term plan. Districts in the past have been thinking that if you say job creation, it belongs to Accra. It belongs to Nana Akufo-Addo and the ministers. But no! Job creation belongs to us right from the local level. A case that I found out, very interesting. In a community, I also not mention the name, but it was in the northeast region. I went to a community where there were 5 boreholes. All of them had broken down except one. So I asked the assembly person, why? What is happening? He said, well, we are not getting repairs and other things. Then I asked him, but why is this one working? Oh, this one is used by the women who process shea butter. You see? And I said, so why is that one working and the other's not working? Oh, this one, as soon as it breaks down, they go to the DCE and report. And not only that, they even repair it themselves. So there's a commercial link between the social facility and the private sector. And that is where that borehole, in spite of all the challenges, is still working. Because it must work for the business to go. And I thought about it, I wrote it. And I said, could we extend this to other facilities?
Talking about playing on our natural strengths, and you spoke a little bit in passing about an industrial agenda and also about the environmental brief that the NDPC holds. So two core assets that the current government is intent on developing are iron ore and steel and an integrated industry around that, and of course aluminium, using our manganese and bauxite resources, and also feeding off some of the excess power that we have in our system. With that focus, obviously there are environmental concerns, and we've seen the campaigns already with the assistance of Martin Bebu, people bringing legal suits about exploitation of resources in places like the Etowah Forest. What is the thrust of your medium-term plan for protecting the environment?
Yeah, a lot of that. A lot of that. A lot of these activities, and if you look at the medium-term plan, it's also right at the center, because we are enjoined to also respond to the Sustainable Development Goals, and many of the goals are protecting the planet. From 7 to about 13, it's all on protecting the planet. But beyond that, as citizens of this country, as people who have taken advantage of all the resources given to us by our forefathers, we also need to bequeath to our predecessors a very serene environment. But that does not stop us from using it so that we can also create better opportunities for ourselves and also the people of the future. Harnessing resources must be done in such a way that we can still have a reliable and a sustainable environment. And these days of technology, things are different. And so one of the things that NDPC is proposed and has proposed is to how diligently we can utilize these resources, but yet by applying and employing technology that can still protect this environment. Very, very important. And not only that, but because there are two phases of it. First of all, we can militate by also creating opportunities for growing, and I always use the word growing, a good environment. And then we can also adapt. We can also adapt in such a way that the environment might not even be destroyed, even when we are utilizing this, because it is basic. We are fortunate. The basis of industrialization is what you've spoken about: iron and steel, aluminium and magnesium. If you have an integrated aluminium hub, and we also have the iron and steel, and fortunately there's an established commission for both of them, the GISDA and GIDE, to be able to harness this. I tell you, that is our future. And in the medium-term plan, one of the central industrial areas which we are going to develop is not just vehicle assembly, but vehicle manufacturing. Because we have this basic raw material, iron and steel and aluminium. So how do we take advantage of this? So I don't think it's just assembling for assembly's sake, but we are using it to build, as I said, the foundation so that we can move to the next step, which is vehicle manufacturing, by taking advantage of these resources that we have. This is crucial. The railway system. To develop a railway system, the basic raw materials, we have it: iron and steel, and the same aluminium for building the coaches and others. And in addition to that, is why the University for Mines at Takwa has now a full faculty for railway engineering. And we're taking advantage. So this is the foundation. We build that, and you realize that once that is done, then you are getting closer to the real manufacturing and action. And therefore, when people say that we haven't seen action, I always say that we are building. And it is through the building that you see the action. And that is important for us in our development prospect. So if you look at the new medium-term plan, it's a bit different from what we've gone through. The first one established the foundation, structures, and all that. The second one is looking at how we're taking advantage of this to take off. Propelled by the COVID effect. If we don't take off now, we might be delayed further. And we've done projections which talks to that. Even if COVID persists for some time, how are we going to manage this? How is the development effect going to be? Where is it going to be affected? And now we're coming out with some proposals. So you see this as we roll on and come out with a full completed medium-term development. But the key thing is that the basis has been laid. It is a time to take off. The COVID has destructed, but we need to very fast, in a very fast way, stabilize, revitalize, and be able to build this resilience.
And indeed, in talking about using technology to protect the environment, the example that will be in most listeners' heads is the announcement of the new technology that can be used in small-scale mining, which has less of a nuisance effect. I'm sure there are environmental campaigners who will have many further questions to ask you about whether it's possible to have any kind of extractive industry without harming the environment, and whether minimizing the effect is something, minimizing the effects of exploiting our natural resources is something that we pay enough heed to overall. But good to see, as you say, that the thinking is going in there in terms of setting the framework. So just maybe fine to round up, because Kodjo is looking at me furiously in the background. One could happily be talking to you for another hour. But in terms of the medium-term plan that you have set out, you've talked about the economics of it, or if you like, economic indicators, certain social welfare and protection measures. We talked about protection of environment just now, the decentralization element and involvement of the districts, or if you like, enabling the districts, empowering them to begin to engineer the takeoff locally. What other key objective, just very briefly, or objectives, would you like to see us attain? Because this goes to 2024, is that right? We have got another 3 years. What other key objectives does the plan set out, or would you hope to see Ghana attain?
One of the things that we principally want to see Ghana through is building what we call economic resilience. And we have factors which relate to that. Indeed, the growth rate and all the indices that we're able to establish in the last 3 years in terms of inflation, in terms of all these good deficit results and all that, helped us when the COVID struck. And that is why of many African countries, we are the ones which registered a bit of a positive growth. Many of them were negative. If we hadn't gone through that economic build-up in the past, we would have sunk. So that is clear, and all our projections indicated that. The other thing we want to do now in the economic facet is to make it more inclusive. Inclusive in the sense that there are a larger number of people who are resilient. And I tell you, one of the clues we obtained from our analysis of this data is that poverty is reducing in Ghana gradually. Poverty in terms of income poverty. But you'll be surprised that it's reducing faster in the case of the women than men. And that is very interesting. So if you look at the graphs, the trend is reducing faster for women than men. Because the women are moving to the informal sector. They are moving into commerce. They are moving into trade. And more dexterous in terms of managing of these resources. And that is from the cases that we've looked at. And I give a practical case of that. Look, during the 2004, we had this social investment fund, for which we supported a lot of these young people around Art Center, Jamestown, to start businesses. So a lot of them who are into this craft selling and all those were supported through that. And after going through, all my international tours and works, I came back and I visited the place, looking specifically for some of them. And you'll be surprised that the women that we supported, many of them have expanded. It's not just one store, but have expanded and gone on and on. And a lot of the boys, when you ask, where's Niabi? Oh, Niabi, they're not lads.
They're not.
So this is it.
Yes.
It is not bad. They might be also bringing back, some
yes.
resources. But these are some of the things.
Yeah.
So taking key of that, it means that it's not just supporting, it's not just expanding, but you need to target to have results. And this is what we're looking at in the medium term. How do we get this woman to move to the next level, to become the next entrepreneurs, the big international entrepreneurs? And we're not surprised. There are a lot of other things within the plan which responds to that. The enterprise support program, the provision of also the development bank, which provides the development of the necessary infrastructure so that the private sector can expand and take advantage and compete.
DBG.
That is it. The other thing is also taking advantage of this after. Can we have a program which targets these informal, women who have all the experience to be able to expand and compete within Africa and identify some of these niches which they can use to expand their trade? So these are all specific things, and that is what you can do within 4 years. Target and execute. Then there could be results to show, and the results which will contribute to long-term development which have established for ourselves. The other thing which we also need to look at, and I've mentioned that already, skills development, looking at the TVET. So this is crucial. Crucial in the sense that they've been in and out of this process. You remember in the past, the JSS system was set up, workshops were built all over, and years after these workshops were converted again into classrooms, instead of using it to a place for training technical skills and others. The Minister for Education has brought up this idea again, which is now pushing the development of the TVET sector, because these skills are needed for us to move and attain our goal of building an industrialized and inclusive economy. Very, very crucial. Rural development is one of the areas we need to look at if we want to attain our results in terms of the economy. Because to have an average per capita of $3,500, it means that everybody must be part of it. And so the rural sector, where there are a lot of cases of underemployment and the underutilization of the skills and knowledge, we need to tap into that. Can we think about processing, turning around? And I always give cases, what I know myself. During the first time SIF period, Social Investment Fund period, we supported some women in going into the processing of oil palm. And palm oil is the result of that. And then we gave them some machines for processing here and there. You go back to these women, and what is the source of their market? It's the same people coming from Nigeria with gallons to come and buy the palm oil from them. Can we go beyond that? Can we have a system that collects this and put it in the way that we can provide a constant supply to some of our factories and manufacturers? So the linkage. So that is one thing we need to look at, the trade linkage, looking at the full chain. And I know that the Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Trade and Industry is doing a lot about that. But this is an area where we put in our plan that we're going to support. The government must put a lot of emphasis on that, to look at the full chain of production from the rural area through that. You go through the roads in central region, in western region. You see plantain, dripping, water dripping out of it. Very soon it will come back in August. What do we do to cut down the wastage? This is something which is even being looked at globally. Yeah. So there will be a full system conference in September, which we are organizing and producing to get to that. The question is, how do we get this done? And that is where National Development Planning Commission has to put up its facilitation skills, its support skills, to support the government to provide the necessary environment for the private sector to take it out.
Well, here's to more joined-up thinking and joined-up government and joined-up action. But fascinating, Doc, and as I said, I could happily be talking for another hour, but Kodjo won't let me.
I think that you could happily be talking full stop. So I've just got nothing to say about that. But I think we've had a great education today, and thanks, Nana, because to get that the economic stuff out there too is fairly critical. So in the areas that you covered, brilliant. So yeah, well, we're all far more educated than before you came in today, Doc, and we really do appreciate the time you spent with us today. I'm going to have to go sector by sector and get to the nitty-gritty on some of these development things. Yep. And again, from my perspective, is whether or not the governance of the day is informed by what you are obviously advising on a regular basis. So thanks very much for your time, and happy Eid to you. You can go home now and wait for the meat to arrive.
Exactly. I'm just going to do that. And I'm sounding the invitation to all my friends who are Muslims, many of them. they should come. But I'm very happy you're giving us this opportunity. And we are readily there. We can take it sector by sector, educate the Ghanaians, and for them to know that we have a plan.
That there is a national plan.
There's a national plan.
Despite everybody's best intentions to cover it up.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Doc.
Thank you.
And you wanted to some other stuff to do very quickly before we leave, but thanks to the doctor for being in here. We got one or two announcements before we hand over to Mrs. Entry.
Mrs. Entry, yes, of course. So a message for you from CBG. Paying your taxes, your customs duties and all other Ghana Revenue Authority payments has been made easy for you by going into any CBG branch nationwide. You can also dial *222# to pay your customs duties, your GRA taxes, your levies to the Environmental Protection Agency, to the Ghana Standards Authority, to the Food and Drugs Authority, or indeed any levies or fees for any other government service or to any other government agency. Visit ghana.gov.gh to fill in your form and generate your invoice. Or for more details, call 030 221 6000. CBG, we stand with you.
Reminder that the Ghana-Nigeria Business Council, in partnership with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, is having its breakfast meeting this morning. Well, it better be this morning. You can't do breakfast in the afternoon. Real Opportunities in Ghana taking place today at the Elisa Hotel at Ridge. The series will explore low-hanging investment opportunities for Nigerian businesses. You're going to have to go online now and visit www.thegnbc.com. Get information about not so much registering, but find out what's going on as the conference kicks off this morning.
There's another 50 minutes of it.
Yes. We have to go because we're letting Mrs. Entry take over from now. Mrs. Entry, in an unusual development on the breakfast show this morning, is going to have a one-on-one because she sat in for an absentee landlord in the person of Esseim Mensah. So she decided to have a chat with Maulvi Mohammed bin Saleh, who's the Emir of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission in Ghana. And so we're going to be finding out